Well, thank you, 2021, for a few good movies and for a lot of bad ones. And here's hoping that 2022 will surprise us, because we're not going to hear about the good ones. You don't hear about the good ones ahead of time.
Well, that's what we hope to talk more about on this podcast. Movies of substance, and then movies that make us angry. And going back into 2021, I went to like 2021 movies, and I literally was scrolling through and realized, you know, I wanted to do like a recap of like, let's talk about like all the movies we watched last year, like that came out last year. And I realized that like the only movies I watched were called Lamb and Pig.
Did you see Skunk?
I was like, what the crap is happening? And, you know, they were both pretty good. I was like, why? What's happening?
Oh, dude. Platypus.
They're both misleading, too. They're really not. Well, actually, yeah, they are. What am I talking about? Both of them are about a lamb and a pig. The lamb one was a trip, though.
I saw Pig. I didn't see Lamb.
You did see Pig?
Oh, I loved Pig. I said, when I saw Pig, I text you guys and said, Pig is awesome and very unexpected, and I would want to talk about it.
Oh, well, here we are. We also know what else we're going to talk about. It's just going to happen. It's going to come up. We've already exhausted it off air, but anyway, Pig, for those who don't know, it's about a truffle pig, which is a pig that sniffs out truffles. You know those fancy truffle fries you get at a fancy restaurant when you want fancy fries?
Yeah, you think you're so friggin' fancy with your truffle fries.
Fancy fries.
Yeah, you don't know crap about where it comes from.
Do you know about the pig that sniffed out those fries in the desert?
You don't even appreciate the pigs that get those fries for you.
It's a real thing, and it's Nicolas Cage in the wilderness with a pig. It's like already sounds ridiculous. And the pig gets kidnapped. Who would want to pig nap?
Pig napped.
Who would want to pig nap?
So true.
Who would want to pig nap a kid? But they do, and then it's about him trying to get his pig back, and it's actually so heartfelt and beautiful and weird, and I was waiting for the moment where Nicolas Cage goes like totally Nick Cage, you know, where he just snaps and becomes like he you know, he just gets to that point in like so many movies where he's just like his veins are popping out, and it's just like, well, here we go. Nick Cage is going crazy. And it never, well, I don't want to say never, because he does have his moments, but I was just sort of waiting for that, like, when is he going to snap, you know?
Yeah, I didn't. What are we supposed to be talking about right now?
I don't know. I was talking about 2021 movies because that was my original plan, was to like let's talk about last year's movies, and then realize I really have only watched Pig and Lamb. So that's what we got. No, and I watched French Dispatch, and then we both
you watched
the Mustard Resurrectors.
Are you saying that those are the only movies that you watched that actually came out in 2021?
Yeah.
You didn't watch any other 2021 releases?
No.
Huh.
I'm like, yeah, let's do a summary, and it's like, oh, there was French Dispatch, Lamb, Pig, and The Matrix, and those are the only movies that came out last year.
God, maybe.
Oh, and Dune, but we did a whole podcast on that. Yeah. You didn't join us, but
no. Maybe I watched less than you then, if I'm trying to think of ones that actually, because I watched a lot of movies last year, but
I watched a lot of movies, and I mean the post-COVID episode, you know, all the movies that I watched during that time.
Yeah, you watched a lot of.
I watched a ton of movies.
It was a very mixed bag.
Really mixed bag. Old movies mostly, because a lot of new releases, it just didn't interest me, or I didn't have access to them. We got French Dispatch, Sweet Girl, Many Saints of Newark, The Little Things, Lamb, JFK Revisited, The Card Counter. Like, look, have you heard of any of these? I didn't even. Swan Song, Red Rocket, Spencer. Did you see the 007, the No Time to Die?
No, I don't watch those movies.
I heard it was bad. I heard Venom was bad. Infinite, Bad Trip, encounter. This sounds like I'm formulating a sentence. Cry macho, time is up. Finch reminiscence. Oh, The Green Knight, which we did a whole episode on, which was that was. I'm just gonna say right now. I'm pretty sure Green Knight was my favorite film of last year. Which is only about out of 5 movies, so it's not. I don't know if that's.
I didn't watch any of those that you just mentioned.
Stillwater, The Unforgivable, Red Notice.
Oh, I watched Stillwater.
What was that about?
It was pretty good. It was. Is
that Matt Damon?
Mm-hmm.
Matt Damon with a goatee and a hat. It's like he's in a disguise so he doesn't look like Matt Damon.
He plays like a Oklahoma what do they call him? Not redneck, but well, yeah, that's like essentially what he is. But roughback.
What are you talking about?
His back was rough, but his neck was not red. No, I think rough. Is it roughneck?
Why are you acting like this is real terminology? The scratch backer.
He's a carpetbagging.
What are you talking
back
about?
Scratcher. I think it's roughneck, which is what
That's not a thing.
It's what they call guys that work on oil drills.
All right.
I'm 99% sure that's what they call them, roughnecks.
All right.
But
hey, listeners, if this is offensive, if the roughneck name is offensive, we want to know because I've never heard of it.
Sorry,
I've never heard of it before.
So let's just call him a roughneck.
All right. A roughnecker.
And his daughter goes to like study abroad in France, in Paris.
Yep.
And she gets convicted of murder. But she maintains her innocence and that she was basically like railroaded by the French legal system because it's basically based on that real story that happened in Italy. I'm forgetting her name, but she was huge. She was on the Joe Rogan podcast and a million other things. But it was a kind of like the story of the girl who went to Italy in real life and her roommate was stabbed and she got arrested for it, but it wasn't really her. And there was like massive negligence on the part of the police in Italy, and they basically were just like happy to convict the American girl and not like and just leave it at that and not like really do any research or investigating. She actually was vindicated and was released, but anyways, it's basically about that scenario and he being this like total like American, red-blooded American Southern guy goes to Paris to like try to help his daughter. He tries to like investigate on her behalf, even though she doesn't really want him to. It's actually a pretty good movie because it's mostly about his relationship with his daughter and how she really doesn't. Basically, she doesn't believe in his ability to come to Paris and actually like help her. She doesn't respect him and his intelligence and his like ability to like do that, especially like navigating the French culture and everything. And it is this really big juxtaposition between like how he sees the world and then he's just like imagine taking someone out of Oklahoma who's never left Oklahoma and just placing them in Paris.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's this guy's situation and so it's kind of beautiful to see how he navigates the culture and how the people from Paris view him and but long story short, he basically takes it upon himself to try to like free his daughter, and the whole time she's like, "Dad, stop! You're gonna make it worse. Like, let the lawyers do their job." And I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's a pretty redemptive movie. I thought it was good. That's Stillwater.
Stillwater.
Yeah.
Where did you see that?
You know what it was? I heard Matt Damon go on. Was it Armchair Experts maybe?
Okay, yeah.
And talk about it. And that made me want to go see it or like rent it.
Okay. Oh, you spent money. Wow. Look at you, high roller.
I think so.
It's a weird thing with like trying to find something to watch. Like I was thinking about it this morning and how I think as far as like streaming, which is what most people do now, I think HBO Max is probably the best streaming service because you get legit movies and like popular movies that like a lot of people want to see. You get all the Studio Ghibli, you get DC Universe, which whatever, and then you get like there's a couple good ones, and then you get all the HBO shows, which are like pretty hard to track down if you want to watch them all in a row. They're really expensive if you're gonna like get them all on Blu-ray or something. Yeah, I was telling you, right, that I started like every DC Universe movie last night. I watched 15 minutes of Wonder Woman 2, this first Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad, the second one, Birds of Prey, Batman versus Superman.
Oh my God.
And
you watched only a little bit of each.
15 minutes of every one of these movies last night with Ben. And
so you watched like almost a full movie.
We watched a movie's worth of DC garbage, and it was because we started Aquaman, like I showed you the other day. That clip. Yeah. Please, whoever Mark, you got to find this clip. I'll send it to you. Like this clip is so absurd with like these like Power Ranger looking people coming in, like breaking into this little quaint home, and it's a perfect example of how they direct scenes. This is what I've heard, that they direct these scenes with two directors. They have like an action scene director, or just like the person who kind of leads the CGI artists, and then they have the actual filmmakers and the director who directs the dialogue scenes. And so you can just see in one shot sort of it shift from like just like conversation to like the room is just gigantic all of a sudden, and the camera makes no sense. It just kind of floats in a circle everywhere. And I know what they're going for. They're going for that sort of like Revenant, like intensity with super wide lenses and all this action in one take kind of thing. But it's a video game. It doesn't look like anything's real. And the fact that the size of the room changes, it's hilarious. So we watched that. It was my roommate's idea. He's like, just throw on Aquaman. I'm like, no, because I thought it would be bad in a way that was just like, this is just bad. Like, this is boring. But it was bad in a way that made us crack up. We were like, oh, this is really entertaining. It's like fascinating. And then we started every single one of the other ones. And
is this an activity that you would recommend people do? Just watch 10 minutes of every DC movie and hate it?
I don't know. I mean, I'm amused by these movies expecting so much of their audience right off the bat. Like they're expecting that you care right away but they don't do the work in the writing, the character development, the dialogue, the scene setup, the introduction to make you care. They don't pull you in. It's just sort of like, here's the stuff, and then they just like slap like emotional music on it, and you're just like, okay. And it's like almost all of them start in this way that like just thrust you into it. So it's really like you have to get yourself in this mindset, I think, of just like sort of popcorn film, like just sort of like whatever, like. Mm-hmm. But I didn't expect it to be so funny. Like I was starting these movies and just like dying laughing because I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like none of this. Anyway, but the DC universe as a whole, you can tell that they were trying to play off of the success of Marvel, which, I guess
how could they not, is
controversial or a lot of people think Marvel universe is amazing because it did at least all the one-off movies, and then it wrapped them all up in the end. And I think as far as superhero movies go, Infinity War and Endgame they were like watchable. But anyway, what else did you watch last year? You watched Stillwater,
Pig, Green Knight.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of the same ones. Matrix.
Did you watch The Last Duel?
No, but I want to. Oh, you know what I watched? Was just the other day was Free Guy.
Free Guy?
Yeah.
Hey, he's a free guy. Hey, dog guy. You didn't watch Don't Look Up?
I did watch that.
You did?
I did.
I didn't watch it yet. That seems to be the hot topic.
That's the flavor of the month right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could talk about it. I definitely could talk about it, but
well, do you think that I'll have a lot to say, or I'll have a lot to say?
I mean,
we could do a whole episode on it.
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean,
right.
It's got a major agenda, and that's obvious. I think from just like looking at the trailer or reading the description. But I think the way it was done was a lot more creative and like, it was made interestingly, which I was not expecting. I was like, this is just gonna hit me over the head with some huge like climate change like agenda thing that's gonna be so on the nose.
Well, because I didn't even know about the premise until the other day. The premise is basically there's a meteor heading for Earth.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's a spoiler. I felt like it was a spoiler when I heard that.
It's interesting. It's kind of a commentary on our society as a whole right now, and how there seems to be no agreement upon any one situation or like a scenario, and like regardless of how much facts and data people are presenting to prove something, the society still splits down the middle on two sides of that issue. So like the point is these scientists discover, oh my God, there's a meteor the size of like Alaska or something, like the size of Mount Everest. There's a meteor the size of Mount Everest. It's going to hit us within 6 months. And then they calculate it's like it's going to hit us in 6 months, 20 days, and 14 hours or whatever. And they go to the White House and talk to the president, and then they go on these news shows, and they're like, this is happening, like we're all going to die. And they basically come up with like the one kind of an Armageddon type solution where we're going to shoot warheads at it, and we're going to break it up into pieces. And
is that what Armageddon is about?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Armageddon is a bunch of astronauts. Actually, Ben Affleck plays a roughneck in that movie. I swear to God. He's a guy who he does like...
Oh, Ben Affleck.
Anyways, the whole point is he's like an oil drilling guy, and they send him to space to land on this asteroid so that he can use his drilling skills to drill down and drop a bomb into the middle of this meteorite.
In Armageddon.
In Armageddon.
I was going to say that does not sound like it would fit into Don't Look Up.
Well... But anyways, the point is less about, oh, there's a meteor coming. It's more about how
they respond to it.
Yeah, and how like the politicians all, and you would think, okay, this is the chance that like we need to, everything, politics be damned, agendas be damned, like everything else shouldn't matter because we're facing this crisis, and we should just take it head on and do whatever's needed to take care of it. That's what you would think, and yet immediately everyone's trying to politicize the situation. And so to me, it's a comment on climate change. It's a comment on like COVID. Why aren't we just...
Do you think it's intentionally commenting on COVID?
Yeah, I think it's commenting on more than anything, more than those specific scenarios. It's commenting on how our society has reacted to those scenarios and the condition of our society being so splintered on everything, and unable to agree on just the basics. Like we can't even agree on just like, yeah, this is a problem. Can we at least agree it's a problem? You know what I mean? Like that.
Sure.
That's what I hear the filmmaker saying is like, can we at least look at the objective facts and data that we have and agree on that? And it's like, no, we can't. And so the whole idea is the Don't Look Up title is the president in the movie and her campaign or her party.
The president's a woman?
Yeah. So the people, the scientists who are saying there's asteroids, they're literally just pleading with the world. Will you just look up? You can, if you look up, you'll actually see it. It's close enough. And so the president and their campaign create a campaign called Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
And so you have the Don't Look Ups versus the Just Look Ups. And it was creatively done enough, and it's very clear to me what it's like the filmmaker's trying to say about our society. And generally I agree. It's like, why can't we just why is true, hard, factual information seems so evasive right now? You know, like why can't?
Because it's purposely being censored.
because because the people disseminating the information are doing it in such a way that it isn't fully trustworthy, and there's so much to it. But so I did watch that, and I would suggest it. I think we could talk more about it.
How would anybody really know how they would respond to that? But like, I'm curious, is there something you would do like right away, or what would come to mind if you found out that we were going through that? Like 6 months out, the world's going to a lot of people are going to die. We all might die. The world might explode. Whatever it is, like meteors coming. Like what would
is it might die or 100% are going to?
Well, in a meteor situation, it seems like it's plausible, right? Like that's possible in our lifetime that could happen. Like what would your reaction be to that? I know it's almost impossible to answer, but what comes to mind?
I mean, to me, like if just taking the scenario from the movie, if the powers that be came out and said, look, this is happening. Earth only has less than a year to be Earth anymore.
Yeah, then it's going to be something else.
But this is the whole point of the movie too. I don't believe that they would tell that information to the world. You know what I mean? Like that's part of it is like, we don't want to, they take the people in control get to decide.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what we know and don't know.
Sure.
But regardless, let's just say it's a scenario where we do know 100% with certainty that we're all going to die within a finite amount of time. Like we're all going to die anyway. My reaction, I think if I was like, okay, at 6 months, like I'm going to try to, first and foremost, I would probably just try to spend as much time with the people who I love the most and just like soak that in. And I don't know, just try to like eat amazing food and like just try to like experience nature as much as possible.
Yeah.
And like I'm sure that the things that are truly important to me would make themselves super clear in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, like my immediate gut reaction is like, oh, I'd want to like travel. But it's like if everyone on the earth knew that was happening, like I'd want to go to all the places I haven't been, right? But like, dude, you would not want to go to an airport. Like airports would be mayhem. Like I would want to like be exactly where I am, be fully like present in that situation or scenario, whatever, wherever I am, and just like soak it in, like just try to whatever. Go right in like my immediate vicinity, and like it would be much more about my relationships. I'm guessing. I don't really know though. Yeah, it's such a weird. I don't know. And you're married, so obviously you'd probably be like, like it would.
You're not just gonna try to like bang everybody necessarily.
That's not what I was getting at.
I thought that's what.
But no,
cut that.
I was just saying. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not married, so I would be trying to.
Oh, I thought that's what you were talking about.
No, just like you would like holding your loved ones, kind of thing. Would be that much more clear. I'd be like, I don't have any loved ones.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But yeah,
interesting. I'm gonna watch that. I've been meaning to watch that.
You should. I think it's.
Well, now we can't do a whole episode. You just gave like a nice little synopsis of it.
We could do it.
Yeah, we'll do it. Okay. I would do a whole episode on it.
I would say you said Green Knight. It was probably your favorite. I would of the few that I saw, the 4 or 5 that I did see, 2021. I would say probably Pig was the one I really liked the most.
Pig is a close second to Green Knight. Like Green Knight, like for me, Pig, the message of it was so strong in the sense that it's basically saying like when you look someone in the eye and see them for who they really are, especially if you're very discerning and you speak right to the heart of who that is, like you get to the truth. Like and it's also like showing that person extending like empathy. Because, like, all the conflict that this guy runs into, he has every reason to just react very, just spur of the moment.
I want to watch it again because what I felt about it, I was like, he was kind of like a Christ type character where like he was so, I was just getting images of like, like the crucifixion of Jesus where he's just getting like brutalized and not responding, like not fighting back or even saying anything. He's just like taking it.
Yeah, the scene where he gets just like his ass beat.
Yeah.
It's like nauseating.
And
he doesn't do anything about it.
Yeah, he like, it's like John Wick but through like he's just as effective as John Wick, but he's doing it through like passivism and like
yeah, but I don't know. I don't view Jesus or that character as passive necessarily. I would view it more like not outrightly violent. He's not necessarily fighting and punching back unless it really is going to get him further to his. That's the funny thing is like this movie. I heard other people talk about it before I watched it about how it has heart, and I'm like, but it's about a guy who lost his pig. Like, how much heart could it have? Yeah. Once you're watching it, it's just the way that the filmmaker presents the story that you take it seriously.
Well, and of course it's, yes, does he truly actually have love for this pig? He does, but it's more about his pain, like his, you know what I mean, his pain. And
early in the movie, he's got the tape that he's going to play, and it clearly has a recording of someone who meant a lot to him, and he stops himself from really listening to it. Mm-hmm. And okay, that's like your little hint of backstory for this character. Clearly has had a lot of loss, and then he loses this pig, tracks people down to who, like, ultimately who, somebody who actually has eaten in his restaurant that he used to have. You kind of through the story are piecing together that this guy is like a master like chef who has like in this sort of underground world of like foodies and where is it? San Francisco?
Seattle, right?
Seattle
or Portland.
Portland, one of those, like Northwest sort of. There's that whole kind of scene of like fine dining, and people have like this reputation, and this guy's kind of like a legend. And finally tracking it down, I mean, I guess we're just totally giving everything away, but like tracking it down to this person who has eaten his cooking, and his reaction is, instead of just like,
that was so beautiful.
Like, yeah, instead of just like being aggressive about it, he like cooks this meal for this guy who you find out that
so what happened was the antagonist of the movie is this very wealthy basically like food distributor character. He's like he's become very rich by distributing food resources to all the restaurants in the city. And from what you understand of him, he's like this like typical rich guy who doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself, and he's just out for his own money basically. And he's got a son who can't live up to his expectations, and he basically craps all over his son every chance he gets, and the son just basically wants to prove himself to him. All that stuff. It's a lot of tropes in that character, but what's amazing is that when Nick Cage's character learns from the son that his parents had a very, very contentious, ugly marriage, and they fought all the time, and it was brutal, that they had one memory that really stood out to them of eating at a restaurant and having just the most delicious meal paired with the perfect wine. It was like this, just like such a significant memory where they came back and they were laughing and they just like had such a great night together as a couple. And you realized, spoilers of course, that was at Nicolas Cage's restaurant, and he loved and was so passionate as a chef that he remembered every single person he ever cooked for and exactly what he cooked for them.
Yeah.
And he recreated that special experience for that man as a gift because his wife had since passed. And so basically, to summarize it, imagine meeting your worst enemy who went out of their way to ruin your life.
Yeah.
And you had to go through hell to find that person.
Yeah.
And you think he finally found him. He's going to beat the crap out of him. He's going to tell him off something. You know what I mean? And what does he do instead is the most like beautiful act of care and service.
Yeah.
He humbly gives this man a gift that is the most special gift he could have possibly given him.
Yeah. You're summing it up much better than I was.
And you're like, oh my God. Like I thought that to me is the Christ part of it. Cause it's like, that's the idea is like,
it's that understanding.
Like it's the person who had every right to punish you instead gave you the greatest gift you could ever imagine. That's why I was like, that feels like a Christ story there. Because he had every right to do whatever he wanted to get retribution from that guy. And instead he like blessed him. And then the guy, and up to that point, he didn't know, right? It was the reveal of the pig being dead was after that moment.
Yeah.
And he still just like, he broke down and then he was just like, okay, like,
yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was such a beautiful movie. I need to watch it again.
Yeah. And then he goes home and he listens to that tape and you can tell it's like a really emotional moment for him, like for moving on and healing from his loss.
Yeah.
And I mean, the movie is about loss and how you respond to that, but it just feels like it is about empathy and understanding.
Every interaction that he has along the way is so beautiful, like how he's not out to hurt people, he's not out for revenge, he's only out to just get his pig. And and the way that like he took the beating in that restaurant Fight Club situation, and then the other restaurant owner who has found success. They used to work together and they knew each other, and he goes to this other guy's. It's like the most like pretentious foo-foo restaurant.
Yeah,
that like you might see on Chef's Table, but you can tell that this guy's not real. Like, he literally sees like the real him and looks him in the eye and speaks to that, and he goes, it just wrecks him. He's like, "What did you always tell me that you wanted to do?" And he's like, "No, this is good. This is perfect. Like, we're doing very well.
Yeah.
The critics love our food. You know, we're doing." He's like, "What did you always tell me you wanted to do?" And he's like, "I wanted to start an authentic Irish pub." And he's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, but that's not sexy.
And he's like, "But people don't want that. People don't want that here. They want this." And he basically makes the guy face the fact that he's a complete fraud and that
that's so good,
that he abandoned all of his own dreams for the sake of just placating to the critics.
Yeah.
And it wrecks the guy. He's like, "I'm a fraud."
Yeah. Well, because it means a lot coming from this person, you know, like the average person could look at him and say that to him, but it would bounce off. But like coming from him, who
someone who
knows him well, they have history, and also he just is like this like myth, like almost this like mythical being going through this city, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's this guy,"
and he's like covered in crap and blood the whole time. Like he never showers.
He never cleans himself off. Like he's just disgusting. and he's just, his face is all swollen from the fight. He's just like,
yeah. And I think that movie was shot like, that's like my favorite kind of movie, where it's so heartfelt, but it's just made not. I don't want to misrepresent how it's shot to make it sound like it's
not sappy. Like we're making it sound sappy, but it's not.
But even just like the way it's shot is just very, very simple, handheld. Most of it's handheld. The lighting is very minimal and very realistic.
Yeah, it definitely has
lots of like use of natural light.
Yeah, and
I love that because I appreciate feeling like I'm in the real world, and this totally is. These characters are real. Like that's the kind of movie that I really enjoy.
Yeah, the only reason that Pig is sort of number 2 for me and Green Knight is number 1 is really just a stylistic. Like, I think Pig hit me harder emotionally and made me think about treating others in a way that I would like to be able to. I'd like to be capable of that. Which is really a beautiful thing. If a movie can do that and get to
if a movie can make you think on that level,
if a movie can like hit me in the feels in a way that like that's tough. That's tough to accomplish. And Green Knight hit me in a way that was just more of an experience and like a creative, otherworldly, something that I would want to be a part of making.
Yeah, they're different movies.
And it was more inspiring to me as an artist, and also like the philosophy of it and the message of it was much more more philosophical and meant a lot to me as well. And I just think if I have to pick one objectively, I'm like, Green Knight to me is like 10 out of 10. And Pig is like a 9 out of 10, like just barely behind. Like it's just there, like, but there's no real reason for either of us to pick favorites, but it's just sort of the natural order of things, I guess. But
yeah, I think you can enjoy such a wide spectrum of movies for so many different reasons. To me, like, I look at Pig and say, if I could only make one movie in my life, and like I would want it to be the kind of movie like that actually gets that actually has a chance at influencing the way that people think and feel and treat each other.
Yeah.
Because that to me is like, that's what's the most important thing.
Well, and how do you do that in a way that feels fresh? Like that movie felt new and fresh and different and like that, but with a timeless message, Yeah. That's tough to do as well. And in a way that's like, yeah, it just has like
I'm gonna
that
watch
uniqueness.
it again. I'm gonna watch it this weekend probably now.
Yeah, I wanna watch it again.
And then I'm gonna watch The Matrix.
Oh, should we talk about the mustard trash resurrected, rebooted?
Let's talk about
farts.
We couldn't talk about 2 more opposite movies back to back.
So let's just keep this as short as we can. Maybe we'll even make this a separate video. The Matrix, like for those of you who haven't seen it, like just prepare yourself for the first Matrix potentially being ruined forever. And I'm not being dramatic. Like it really reuses footage for the first Matrix in a way that you'll not be able to get out of your head. And it makes fun of the franchise in a way that's a very strong wink to the audience and kind of mocking the audience. And it does things that I haven't quite seen before, but not necessarily in a good way. I've been really surprised by some people's responses to this movie. Like some people are thinking that it's like clever for
it's polarizing again.
It is polarizing, and I've been baffled by the fact that it was polarizing. Like I feel similarly to when I stopped watching Dune, where I was like, well, people certainly feel the same way I do. Like, no, everyone loved Dune, and I was like, but at least Dune had a lot of things that you could see were strengths. Honestly, this again, it's gonna sound so dramatic. I think about the top like 5 movies that make me furious, that like I hate with every fiber of my being. Like, and it's usually an emotional response, like some of the new Star Wars movies or something, where you're like, they're just ruining what makes this good, like.
That seems to be a big thing for you, is if it's disrespecting prior work, then
yeah, well, because movies to me are like how I've tried to like understand the world, and I probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean? Like
problem.
Like it is probably, but like to me, movies are so important, and stories are so important. But movies are like my favorite, not just like way of entertainment, but just like to digest, like, messages and like think about the world, and they've meant so much to me throughout my childhood and like getting older. And The Matrix is like one of those movies where you're just like, holy crap, like it affected the way I viewed reality. And I always was one growing up questioning reality, like watching certain movies like The Truman Show or something. I'm like, that it really captures a feeling that I have, where I'm like, this is all
something's off.
It could totally be fabricated. Like, what do I know? I don't know if this is like quote unquote real. And does it matter? is that gonna change the way I'm gonna live my life? Is this all a computer program? Should that matter? Should I even spend time thinking about that? The Matrix explores it in a way while it's combining genres together in a way that had never been done. That sort of like Hong Kong kung fu style, but also hard sci-fi. Like, there's so many elements of it that are just so good.
Groundbreaking filmmaking techniques and like technological breakthroughs in
film. And then
film.
the visuals. It's like with all these other movies I'm thinking about that I absolutely hate, there's redeeming qualities. The visuals in Dune, the visuals in some of the Star Wars movies, some of the, I don't know, whatever. But like, I literally cannot think of any redeeming qualities for the Matrix Resurrections. Like, I didn't enjoy one aspect of it. Like, I was like blown away by I got to the point where I had to just like laugh at it. It was like, the first half I was like just in like just cringe mode. I was like, oh, like I was just becoming a fetus like in the theater. Like, I was also in the theater, which is even worse because I like paid money to see it, went out of my way, like got excited, like met friends there, like the whole process. It's like, yeah, it's a movie, and it's like, yeah, at the very least I have low expectations, but at the very least the visuals and the fights will be that Matrix level. Like, I'm thinking like they have to try to at least outdo some of what they did. They go in this other direction of like, no, let's like make fun of the fact that you ever liked the Matrix, and we'll kind of do it in a wink like meta way for like the audience. And I get that was probably seen as clever, but it just doesn't work when you do that as a setup, and then the rest of the movie you go into, oh, now we're supposed to try to take it somewhat seriously. So it really didn't fully go down one path of like, this is a sort of a meta, like semi-joke, wink, like, isn't it funny? And it didn't also go into, this is a full-on Matrix, continuing the Matrix story. It was sort of trying to have its cake and eat it too. And like, dude, I hate it. I hate it. I hate this movie so much. And I talked to you the next day, and we like, I was like,
yeah, you were hot.
I lost my mind over it.
Yeah, I can't think.
We should have recorded it then because it was so fresh.
Yeah.
At this point, it's like getting over a breakup or something. It's like you can't be.
You're trying to get to the acceptance phase.
I'm trying to get to the. It's like you have to just let it go.
You were definitely in the anger phase.
At this point, I just want to enjoy the first Matrix again. I'm like, if this can't take away what the first Matrix has meant to me, but it might take away the Matrix meaning something to me in the future. And I'm like, to me, that makes me mad. And not just that it's a bad movie, but like, it's almost like they were like going back on like, oh, the Matrix is a good idea. Even it's like they were like,
yeah. So this is why I think I would actually watch it again, only because no, it's not about the film for me anymore. I like to step outside of the movie in certain cases, like with Tenet. You know, these are some reasons I like Tenet.
Good God.
Because I like to try to speculate what was the filmmaker really doing? Where were they at? And like, why did they make these weird choices, right? So I look at the Matrix Resurrections and I think if take the Matrix trilogy out of it, and if you just saw this movie, it was the first thing that Wachowski made, and you watched it, you would be like, this is terrible, it makes no sense, and it's an awful movie, it's poorly executed, the acting's bad, the writing's bad, the visuals are weird. Like, all of it, you would just look at it and be like, this is a pile of trash. But then you...
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wouldn't watch it again to watch it as a movie per se. Yeah, I would watch it again.
Research.
Yeah. Exactly. I would watch it again to speculate as to what's really going on here. And I kind of enjoy that process, like putting the puzzle together in my mind. And I think like, okay, this is an interesting case study in an artist. Truly, I mean, like the Wachowskis at their best were doing some really incredible stuff. Yeah. And that was 20 years ago. And it's also interesting. They were identifying as men, and you can't 20 years later you can't get any more different as a human than they've become. They've clearly changed. They're different people.
Yeah.
And it's almost like,
which that's definitely a theme in this
oh,
story.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's totally her saying, this is my journey in a lot of ways. And like, and like a lot of the ways that I used to think, I'm now going to, I'm now going to piss all over my old ways of viewing and thinking of the world. That's what I think she was doing. And I think she was like, it's like if an artist, a brilliant painter, used to paint something in a way, and it was beautiful, and everyone loved it, and it was amazing. And then they had life experiences that changed who they were.
Yeah.
And then they went back, and they, in front of all their biggest fans, they stacked all their paintings, original paintings up, and then lit them on fire and said,
right. It's
and said, take that.
It's trying to say that my high concept personal thing, it's trying to avoid criticism, because it's winking at the audience to the point where I already know what you're expecting. I'm not going to give it to you. And it's like when you take an art class and there's an artist who takes something like this, crushes it up, and is like, now it's my own there. But what it really represents is, you know, my childhood, you know, with my drunk father who, you know, caved my mother's head in, or something, whatever it is. It's like some super personal thing, and it's all this, it's high concept, and then you can't argue with it anymore because you're like, well, this is what it means to me, and then you're like, well, now I feel bad, right? Because I read some stuff and I looked up because I was fascinated, like, what is Lena Wachowski? Because it's just Lena Wachowski. It's not both of them together. It's just her directing. And so I was like, what are you thinking?
But
what is inside your brain?
Didn't they write it together?
They might have written it together. Yeah. But she directed, and I was like, what are you trying to say, and what are you doing? And there was all this like personal like pain and stuff attached to it, and it's like, okay, so now it's this personal project, right? And now you're using it to process grief, and that's great. That's what artists do. But I still, like objectively, you have to still look at this crushed can and go, that's nothing. That your art sucks because you didn't do anything. Well, like, you attach like meaning to it, and that's great for you. But really, it's lazy and it sucks.
As a fan,
and I always felt that in like art classes where there's like that artist who's just, it's all about the idea surrounding the art, and it's really just like, well, you just don't have it. You're like, you might have an idea, but that's the thing is like, at once they did have it. Like they had something special and unique, and it's like I don't claim ownership on someone else's art, you know, years ago just because it meant something to me. But it's like you can have those same themes, explore those same ideas in a way that works, right?
Well,
like you could do it in a clever way. Like you could explore, like I could come up with a much better analogy for some sort of like motivation of like past trauma or whatever than a crushed can that I'm using.
It's pretty good
right
in the
now.
moment.
Do you know what I mean though? Like create something that like it has a lot more depth. And it, I don't know. It almost feels like that,
like a crushed like bag of chips or something.
Right? Yeah. There you go. It's like when we used to be in the sprinkler factory. Like it's like we had like a little. We
used to share space with an art gallery.
There would be an art gallery in there, and you know, it's like you'd see one thing that's just like an old boot on a thing, and you're like, okay, and then you'd see that this gorgeous painting next to it, and it's like I understand it's completely different ways of expression, but me as an artist also can feel like I have the right to have like an objective opinion. Like the old boot's lazy and there's nothing to it. There's a meaning attached to it. That's great. But like, I want to look at the detailed painting, and I feel like I get more from that, and I can come up to my own conclusion. And
well, one
this analogy is poor.
I get what you're saying.
Like,
in that scenario, one of them actually took legitimate talent, time, effort, meticulous. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like
I know. It's not like they didn't work on this or anything. It's not like it's like completely lazy. So that's why it's not a good analogy.
I don't know. What I would say, I've had like 9,000 thoughts while you rambled, so now I can't collect any of them. But I think, I think you have the filmmaker who is trying to express how they've changed, and that's great, and I think that's actually a beautiful thing that they should be able to do. But I think what is upsetting is as a as a fan of the prior work that it was meaning. Like, just because your opinion of what you made may have changed doesn't mean that it wasn't significant to a lot of people. And that significance has changed for them too. Like, just because you've changed doesn't mean the world has changed. And so it's kind of disrespectful to people who really enjoyed what you made to then take a crap all over it and kind of ruin it for them. Why didn't you just make a whole new thing? Why didn't you just make a new movie?
From what we seem to understand in the actual movie, in the story, this is where it gets meta, is where they're like, hey, Warner Brothers wants you to make a movie. Like, we don't need to go into the whole plot synopsis, but...
yeah, you're right. I kind of forgot about this part, though.
They're going into the whole situation where, Neo is back in the Matrix. He's a video game designer. He designed the first 3 Matrix movies as video games. So in this world, everything that you saw in the Matrix as the movies is a video game. And it's not like they go out of their way to make like video game versions of these of these scenes. No. They just show footage of the movies that you already saw, which makes no sense. And then they're saying, well, Warner Brothers needs you to make like a 4th game. And they're trying to do this meta thing where like Warner Brothers asked us told us that like we have to make a 4th Matrix movie. So the motivation behind this movie really could be that where Warner Brothers is like, hey, we own the rights. Like, we're going to make it without you. Do you want to be a part of this? And they're like, oh, crap. Well, I guess I'll just write something that's so ridiculous, that's so, like, like, sequel. This really feels like it's trying to touch upon, like, movies and sequels in that whole world, which it's like, I get, like, I also hate meaningless sequels. That's why, like, when they said they were making a 4th Matrix movie, I was like, I don't even know if I want to watch this, but I was just curious. Like, it was pure curiosity, but the way it's executed, it really, I mean, I think in hindsight, I'm able to detach it from the first 3. But while watching it, I was like, well, I'm here to see the 4th Matrix movie. So I was so blown away. Like, my mind was just like, just melting with like the fact that they were like making fun of the first 3 movies, and you're like, am I supposed to take this movie that I'm watching now seriously when it's making fun of the world that inhabits the movie I'm watching? Like, what are you doing? And then once I kind of get that tone, and it seems like they're making fun of like Hollywood and like executives who have like had conversations with them probably. Which it's like all of that is fine, and I'm actually like the messaging I agree with all of that, but it was just it seemed like it was in such poor taste. But then the second half of the movie, just objectively as a story, is basically Neo comes out of the Matrix again, does the whole same thing that happened in the first movie, and now he needs to go get Trinity out for no real reason. Like it's
not even worth going into the story of the movie.
Well, that's
so
like
bad.
That's my biggest, I think, gripe with it is not even just the fact. Wow, I like spilled.
Not
even just the fact that like the fight scenes are horrible. The camera work's not even interesting. Like they like purposely tried to do a different style. It's not fun to watch. Like there's different characters playing like Morpheus and Mr. Smith. Like they write their way around that somehow. Like there's all these obvious things that are like just this is bad. But then when you step back and you just go, what's the story? Oh, they got to get Trinity out. Like they got to get her out of the like for no reason. Like it didn't have any stakes really. And then the ending is obviously like the most upsetting, which we don't even have to talk about. But it's like I was trying to rack my brain for like, well, this aspect was okay. Like I honestly think this is the worst. It's the worst. And for me, in my opinion, it is the worst thing. It's the worst movie. It's the worst
Are you back?
movie.
Are you back, Mike? Because you've been gone for about 10 minutes.
Sorry. I forgot what I was doing.
I honestly felt like I was just listening to your podcast.
I'm sorry. I probably interrupted you too. I didn't even think we were going to get fully into it. I thought we were just going to scan over it. It's not even worth talking about. It sucks.
Yeah, let's not spend any time on it.
All What did you? Sorry, I'll shut up and you say your piece because you have a lot more nuanced perspective and you're not getting as emotional. And this is me totally toned down after a couple weeks.
Oh my God, this is nothing compared to where you were at the day one. Oh my gosh,
I couldn't even work.
He couldn't. You spent
my roommate couldn't even talk to me after the movie. He was so upset. He was more upset than I was. He couldn't even. I was like, "Yeah, what did you think of that?" He's like, "I can't. I don't want to talk about it." He literally couldn't talk to me about it. We saw it together, and then we talked about it. I think the next couple of days, but. Dude, yeah.
Yeah, all I'll say, and we should stop talking about it, is
I should stop talking.
Is it felt like I want to hear more from the Wachowskis because
look at there's an
I will.
Yeah,
I'm going to read it, but it felt like they weren't setting out to make a movie, let alone another Matrix. They weren't setting out to do that. But when the studio came to them and said, we want to make money on this once popular franchise, and we're going to do it with or without you, and if you don't want to do it, well, you won't even make any money off of it. If we make it, we'll just cancel your contract. It seemed pretty clear that that's what they were saying in the movie. And they were like, all right, fine. If you're going to be that way, we'll make it, but you're get ready. Like, and it was almost just like, I'm not the person that made that franchise anymore, so you're going to get a whole different thing. And, and so that's what felt like happened. Like that, it was just not, it's not the right way to go about making a movie. It just didn't feel right. You shouldn't twist someone's arm into making something. That's what I think set it up to be a bummer. And, maybe there would be a more interesting, nuanced version of it if they were making it willingly,
Yeah.
But
it's like because there were so many parts where I was like, I feel like the message of this movie is that like this movie should have never been made.
That's
and
what
I'm
it
like,
felt
so
like.
why did you make it?
Because they were like, I was just put in this situation and screw the world and screw the studio.
Yeah, they were basically like making fun of Warner Brothers.
And it could be that they were like, you're gonna ruin it, and if anyone's gonna ruin it, it's gonna be me. That could have been part of that. Could have been part of the attitude too.
Yeah,
like no one's gonna ruin my franchise. If anyone, I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like a George Costanza like tantrum.
Yeah.
If it's anyone, it's me.
Well, and I get that it was self-aware, it has that going for it. It's not like, some of the newer Star Wars where it's not trying to be meta, it would be trying to take elements from what made the original franchise good and try to twist it into trying to do something now that's also good and force feeding you something in a way that's like it, you like it? Like, it's not necessarily doing that, which I'll give it that. But
this is why I tell people to watch it. I'm like, watch it because it's unlike anything else.
Yeah, and that's why I just wanted to put the disclaimer in the beginning, though. It's like, if you don't really care about The Matrix, it's an interesting viewing experience. But if the first Matrix actually means a lot to you, we'll see. Maybe I'll be able to watch it again and not throw up. But like, I don't know. Like it
just felt like
it literally showed probably 55 shots from the first movie in flashes that were so unnecessary. It literally projected the first Matrix movie in the scene of the Matrix Resurrection. Like I couldn't believe what they were doing.
It's interesting to me. It's like 1999 was the world and America and society and culture were so different.
Yeah.
And that's what the first movie came out, and it was really amazing. And then this is such a 2021 movie. Like it's
just
our culture and
this is movies now
and where we're at, and like it's just like this just fits into the weird, bizarre world we're living in, and this is it. And it's not better, in my opinion. It's not better than it was back then, but that at least.
What do you mean, life?
life, culture, our society, the state of things.
I think life is worse now. I think objectively it's gone way downhill. And movies,
I also think that's such
definitely have.
That's such a an opinion of someone who's just getting older. Like,
I know.
yeah, like, everything sucks.
No, I think the 90s were. I'm thinking more like idealized. I don't think that things were necessarily way better than.
My friend has a funny song that he's a musician, and it's called When I Was Young, or When I Was Your Age, or something like that. And the whole idea is like everybody has this idealized view of, or not. If you're lucky, you have an idealized view of your childhood, because and what the world was like at that point, and how culture was so much simpler, and people, like, it doesn't really matter. That's such a common experience to look back and be like, you didn't used to be like this. Yeah. And it's kind of like a satire of a song on that mentality. But he goes like way over the top. It starts, you think it's like, oh, this is kind of a cute song about when I was young, and then he turns and he's like, yeah, back then, like, we didn't have disease, and everyone just listened to their parents, and everyone was rich, and he just starts going like that, and you're like, oh, he's just making fun of that whole mindset.
Yeah. 99 was a year for movies, though.
For sure.
Fight Club, American Beauty, The Matrix.
Other ones?
There's the other movies that came out in 99. Yeah, but all right. Well, we definitely covered the best and the worst, I think, of the 2021 movie experience. 2022, I was just looking up. There's like,
don't look up.
There's all these big like blockbusters, like Wakanda Forever, Thor, the next Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, another Jurassic World.
Oh, come
Another
on.
Spider-Man and Avatar 2.
Let's just stop.
The Secrets of Dumbledore and a Batman movie. I'm like, what's happening?
Yo,
like,
there's a Harry Potter.
The Flash, like all these massive blockbusters are back, baby.
The only ones that I don't know. None of those excite me at all. I'll watch all of them.
I'm being sarcastic. I'm being sarcastic because I actually had hope that the film industry would start being
more things like Pig, please.
Like smaller budget, like just. But no, that's not going to be the case. Oh, 2022, Aquaman in the Last Kingdom.
Lucky
yes,
you.
I'm going to see it in theaters, baby. It's so bad. Avatar 2, no one cares anymore. It's papyrus font. Stop it.
Is No One Cares Anymore a movie title? Because I'd watch that.
No, that's the funny part about all this stuff is I'm so cynical, but then I'll go see Avatar 2, and then I'll see the Batman movie,
and you'll hate it, and you'll hate yourself, and they know all of that. I think the only other movie I did see that was Free Guy, which I don't know if you have you even heard of Free Guy?
No,
I hadn't either.
I'll look it up.
I hadn't either, but it's from the makers of Deadpool, and it's Ryan Reynolds as the lead. Okay, and
I have heard about this. Yes.
So here's a version of We're Living in a Video Game that is fresh and really well done in terms of like. Let me be clear. It's a silly, goofy movie that you're not supposed to take seriously.
Right.
But that's the thing. It knows that, and so you know that, and then you can just, surrender to that experience and just enjoy it for what it is.
It's directed by a guy who's only produced like very serious movies. This is funny, and he's actually directs this.
No, isn't the guy who did Deadpool? Isn't it that director? Same director?
I don't know.
I think it is, and it's very Deadpool-ish in humor, but not nearly as like dark and violent and appropriate. But point is there's an example of a movie that gets really wacky and weird and silly, but it's enjoyable because it's consistent and it knows what it is and it stays in its lane. Like that's all I really ask of any movie is like I can enjoy it if I understand what you're going, like what the world is, and that it's consistent and it stays in its lane. Yeah. I hate when movies are like, wait, it was making jokes and it felt silly and it felt like one thing, but now I feel like it's another thing and it wants me to take it seriously now, but now it's dramatic. Like once movies start doing that and it doesn't know what it's supposed to be tonally, I'm like, I'm out. Like
that's why you should watch 15 minutes of all the DC movies because they're so funny because you're watching it and you're going, somebody, like so many people like signed up for, like, gave this the thumbs up, like as if this was gonna land, and then they edited it, and people looked at it and went, "Yeah, that works." And then they put it out there, and you're watching it, you're like, I don't know what emotion you're expecting from me, but there's this thing, and then there's this part, and it's like it's so jarring. It's like scrolling through like social media and seeing different things pop up. Yeah. And like laughing, and then and then it's like, what is this even? Yeah. So I agree.
I would suggest for you guy, like it's creative. The visuals are like amazing. Like I don't know how it blows my mind when they're able to create such elaborate, detailed worlds that just from scratch like that. And it's kind of a fresh take on like. Entering into, we're in a video game, but the humans are playing the video game and they know that, but then you get to enter into the experience and perspective of the actual non-playable characters, the AI characters.
Yeah.
And like, what would that be like for them? So that I thought that was like a funny, interesting take, and it was enjoyable.
Nice.
Not like I wouldn't be like, oh, it's a great movie, but it was enjoyable.
No, but you've brought it up a couple of times, and it sounds like it's worth watching for sure. So,
well, let's
with that,
let's wrap this biscuit downtown.
Yeah.
We didn't get nearly as weird and goofy and silly as I thought we would if it was ever just gonna be you and me.
Yeah. Well,
we kept our shirts on.
Next time.
Yeah.
Next time. Well, it's kind of been a long day.
A lot of talking.
I was like, maybe we should just push it off, but I kept pushing this podcast this whole week, so I was just like, let's just do it. And I was like, I'm tired. If I wasn't so tired, I probably would get actually riled up talking about the Matrix. I'd actually be upset.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine me getting upset about the Matrix?
And that what we just experienced wasn't that.
What you just experienced is me after this beer.
That's Mike That's Mike tempering
tired.
himself.
Me feeling tired. I'm not even purposely tempering. I'm like, whatever.
Well, thank you, 2021, for a few good movies and for a lot of bad ones. And here's hoping that 2022 will surprise us, because we're not going to hear about the good ones. You don't hear about the good ones ahead of time. I'm
excited for The Northman, because that's Robert Eggers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. I don't have my eyes on anything
else. That's how I'm learning more and more. Like you gotta just find the filmmakers that you really like, and then keep tabs on them, and then not worry about the big in your face stuff. Because anything you're hearing advertised is going to be those outrageous blockbuster reboots that are So if you want to watch those, great, you should. But also, movies of substance tend to be the ones that you don't really hear about, and you get lucky and you find them.
Well, that's what we hope to talk more about on this podcast. Movies of substance, and then movies that make us angry.
Movies of substance and movies that make us substantially upset.
Yeah. All right.
Alrighty.
Love you, bro.
Bye. Love you.